Okay. Hello, good evening. I hope you can hear me, and I'll bend down slightly for the mic so you can hear me. Tonight I'm going to talk about, is Christmas a season for goodwill or for fighting over TVs on what we call Black and Blue Friday? May have you seen the news, you've watched some of that. What I want to do is start with understanding in what we understand to be Christmas. What is Christmas? What does that mean? I want to start from the position that it's an advertising invention. It didn't exist. Churchill, for example, in terms of advertising, called advertising a tuppenny Punch and Judy show. So we've been dismissed for quite some time, which is not bad, considering it's a £16 billion industry. That's quite big. So Christmas. Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, 1843, if you want the date. No Harvard referencing. Defines the spirit of Christmas in the values of giving, sharing, and celebrating. I'll get the mic right in a minute. Films like Holiday Inn, if anybody has ever seen that, 1942, a bit before your time, have contributed to the ideas of the lore of Christmas. The song White Christmas, sung by Bing Crosby in Holiday Inn, idolised Christmas. The words of this song have been immortalised, and you've got the words snow, sleighs, bells, children and singing as necessary parts of the perfect Christmas. White Christmas conjures up dreams and fantasies about an old-fashioned Christmas that is just like the ones we used to know. Interestingly, and moving on sort of for the history of the 20th century, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer leapt into Christmas in 1939, didn't exist. Elvis brought rock and roll into Christmas traditions in the late 50s and 60s. And in the television age, Charlie Brown's Christmas, 1965, and How the Grinch Stole Christmas joined other Christmas tales. In the new millennium, we've had The Polar Express in 2004, and Frozen very recently. Incidentally, I think Disney are limiting parents to 3 purchases per Frozen at the moment, whatever that means. They're vying for a place in the lineup of this hotel pageantry. And this is the important bit. Such examples demonstrate the evolving traditions of Christmas. It's evolving. It didn't exist. If you look at the internet, turn up Victorian images from and nothing before that really. Nothing exists. The reasons for this are simple. Christmas as we know it, a time of Christmas trees, lavish fifth family Christmas dinners, which I think you might be doing, gift giving, Santa Claus and toys, they date from the 1800s. A guy called Clement Clark Moore wrote, "It was the night before Christmas." And Charles Dickens in England wrote his story, A Christmas Carol, in the mid-1800s. The more important factor was that there was industrial consumption going on. And the commercialism of Christmas was born in the Victorian age and linked to the Victorian images that signify a traditional Christmas. You had to have the two. I'll sort of skip some of the stuff I might say, but I'll carry on. Here's an interesting thing. 1647 doesn't mean much, mo people. The British Parliament abolished Christmas. It was abolished, gone. Why was that? Puritan Oliver Cromwell chap, he was a bit of a laugh. And in America, they also thought it as a wanton bacchanalian feast. And through that time, they banned things like it was any other working day and demanded a fine from anyone refusing to work, court feasting, or engaging in other forms of celebration. So that's where we were, not where we are. Then the liberal Protestants came over from Germany, Britain, the Netherlands, and brought their traditions with them. And it was 1836, the earliest American states and territories began to recognize Christmas and a legal holiday. And by 1890, a lot of facts here, it had to become a national holiday. But not until 1890. It didn't exist. That's not that long. Christmas Carol is interesting. Incidentally, Charles Dickens wasn't a stranger to advertising. He once took on a job of advertising boot polish. And he sat in a window of a shop and polished shoes and got paid for it. That's Charles Dickens. Also, and I wasn't going to put this in, he got paid sometimes by the word. Anyway, Christmas Carol, if you know it, everybody does. A secular story of goodness winning out over evil. of sharing replacing stinginess, of community transforming loneliness, and it moves into what becomes the Christmas spirit. Despite the emphasis that its continuing retelling places on the central values, it also teaches the pleasures of buying, giving, sharing and consuming. That's the important part there. And it's the opposite of turning away from consumption, not spending and not giving, being condemned by the story. That's where we start our Christmas journey. So I kind of call it commercialness to myself, and that's what it is. Oh, here's a good one. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. We know the song, we know the story. It was actually worked on in the advertising department of a Chicago-based mail order company. Guy who wrote it, Robert L. May, wrote it as it was an insert that went in to some advertising that went out. It was just done for that. It wasn't done for any altruistic reason. It was done for money. It was an annual giveaway. In 1931, and I've seen a few T-shirts tonight, Coca-Cola commissioned an artist called Haddon Sundblom to draw advertising images of Santa and Coke. This is why, and I'm sure it's a very well-known fact now, why Santa Claus wears red and white. Before that, it was green mostly. He wears red and white. It's the colours of Coca-Cola. And before that, he wasn't that colour. And there's a T-shirt over there, but I can't show you it now. And the big plump Santa dressed in those colours replaced pretty much everything. But this is where it changes. In recent years, Coke has departed from its connection to Santa Claus because he's not really appropriate anymore in the world we're in, the diversity and multiculturalism of the world we're in. And he's decidedly a Caucasian male. You can't get around that. Well, it takes a while. He's a big guy. Newer Coke ads have found an alternative icons. 88, they used the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree. And never mentioned Christmas in its advertising now. If you listen, it says the holidays are coming. It does not mention Christmas. And they're moving away. But the commercial tells the story of magic, belief and family. They're the parts of that tradition that are important, without any specific reference to either Christmas or Santa. Recently, they've moved away from that, and I was even checking this morning just in case they put anything else out, but they're sending the truck to Poole, I do believe, very soon. I might go and have a look just for the comedy value. And polar bears and penguins are now in vogue, moving it away. It's this tendency to move it away, look at holidays and parties, and not talk about any of that sort of secular stuff. They don't like it. So, where are we at with that? Mass consumption. Complaints about materialism have always happened with Christmas. There's a lot of issues around that. The things that are given at Christmas are a material object, usually a commodity bought in a crowded, garishly decorated store. You can tell I like Christmas. Not a big fan. On that one hand, it is a commodity purchased for money and an impersonal transaction. And on the other, it's a gift given to express affection in a personal relationship. What's going on? Shopmas is another word I'd probably use. I keep trying them out. And this is what makes shopping an integral part of Christmas. It is a mistake to see Christmas in isolation, to see it only as a celebration, and a recreation of family or recreation for family and friendship. It's a celebration in a social economic context, if you want it to put it that way. It is the Christmas shopping that proves to them and the people that they can create a sort of family around the idea of shopping. Shopping is a key part of Christmas. And so the role of advertising is quite clear. It's to promote shopping as well as the idea of giving goods with social significance. It's a joint thing. It urges the consumer to purchase this or that and communicate the pleasure, significance and human values that giving will bring. The link between giver and the object becomes eternal. The lifeless commodity has undergone a transformation into a treasured gift. Am I selling it to you? I don't know. Okay, so that's kind of Christmas. The other part of it is fighting in the aisles. You know, what's happening there? Did anybody watch those videos? I went through them again just this morning. And I believe, and I contend, that it's an engineered spectacle. It's engineered. And we're all culpable in this. And this is where my research goes, but I won't bore you with that, I promise. It's reciprocal, it's shared. We're all in this together. The cameramen, they were cheerleaders. Did you see the cheerleaders in one of them? There's cameramen. There were players and there were observers. And you need to put that shared experience as the control. That's what's going. It's shared. It's not one telling the other. It's a shared experience. Not one of the other group is involved in that control. It's equal. The videos you see are of a fight, but they're distortions of reality. If you watch it very carefully, it's there's snippets repeated. It's quite a very distorted view of the world. And the situation is what I call boiler housed. It's heated, it's stirred, and ready to blow as soon as the doors opened. It was ready to go. It was set. The scene was set. The people walking in and the people in the room, they were sharing that experience. If you didn't know what was going to happen as you did that, then more fool you. However, why were there so many cameramen? Have you seen that? There were like loads of cameramen. Technical term. Were they all shoppers? Or were they paid to play? Were they given a few quid to play up? I would, wouldn't you? It goes back to a lot of American ways of working. If you examine the footage carefully, many are smiling. There's one woman, poor woman, who gets pushed down on the ground, and there's a big issue about that in one of the newspapers. But she gets up, she's standing at the corner smiling after. It's like, well, that doesn't look as bad as I thought first time, maybe. And only the few who are not in on the joke or the setup lost their tempers, and actually perhaps they think they should receive counselling for that. I think that was a bit harsh. There's one guy just loses it, and I think he just didn't know. So it goes. The other choice is for us to lose the joint control and pass it over to others. My insights are into our shared and locked-in universe of reciprocal behaviour, and in effect, I try and explain this simply these days because I've tried to be complicated about it in the past. It's kind of like, like an hourglass with the sand going through. Imagine you turned it on its side and the sand just kept going. It's sort of a shared experience. It's not top down. We're in it together. And that maybe gives us an understanding that we're all in it. Some people are desperate, but we are played to an extent and we know we're being played quite often. There's less money around, so giving, and by this I mean spending dressed as giving, going back to what I said at the beginning. And it's putting pressure on that boiler room. So we need to ease off a little bit. And we need to start engineering a new Christmas. I think this one's getting a bit old. So I stand by one thing, and I'm going to finish with this. So it's a very brief 15 minutes. There's one thing I have on this, and it's you can always choose to turn us off. So thank you.
Wonderful, thank you so much, Don. So we do have about 10-15 minutes now, time to take a few questions.
I don't think there is any spirituality in Christmas anymore, and I think it will carry on as a consumer mass. It's about consuming, and that will continue as long as people consume. And maybe that's a bleak view, but happy Christmas on that note. Yeah, that's where I think it's going. I just think it's moving forward. It's going to evolve, and it's changing rapidly. I think, a lot of people in this room and younger people are not engaging with it in the same way as many things are changing. And because that's changing, it will change. But it's shifting. I mean, if we just look at internet shopping going on now, it's huge. It's, the high street no longer has that function anymore. That's a big shift away. I could spend hours on talking about that, but I won't. But we're still consuming, we're still doing it. The online sites are still doing very well, and that's a massive change. Facts and figures, John Lewis last year, their shift into spend, the £7 million advert, they made over 600 million in the run-up to Christmas based on that return on investment. A lot of that was online. So it's just changing, it's still there. That's a good question. I think in terms of where my thinking is, that'll still go on. I think the distance isn't an issue, never has been. People have always sent gifts. And it's that act of giving which shows the opposite to Ebenezer Scrooge. You know what I mean? That's all it is. It's like, I gave, therefore I am a better person. Therefore I am consuming, spending. I'm moving. So that's the transaction always, and I think the distance is kind of irrelevant. I don't think it's actually about the. This is very cynical. I don't think it's about the end result. I think it's about you. Yeah.
We're hardwired to stuff ourselves in it and just consume too much at this time of the year.
Yeah, I think we are hardwired. I think research I did was kind of just general terms of advertising. Does it work? And yeah, it does. But the bit that I didn't expect was that the advertisers are in it as well. You can't unless you stop consuming. Unless as an advertising person you just stand way out in the middle of nowhere and never talk to anybody. You are in a reciprocal relationship with everybody else, and we are hardwired to eat, consume, to overshare. I think is the current phrase of this year, and yeah, it is hardwired in. You can't extract yourself from that universe. So yeah, I think that, and that's kind of where I got to on my research, definitely.
I've got a question. So use the microphone.
So it's going to be a hard one. No, you're not allowed the microphone.
So my question very quickly is, 10 years ago, everybody waited for the Coca-Cola advert, and when you saw the Coca-Cola advert on TV, that's when Christmas started. And in the last few years, it's been John Lewis. So everybody thinks, well, what's the latest John Lewis advert? And this year, it seems like Sainsbury's has got a slice of the pie in that they've created this advert that everybody seems to love as well. So moving forwards with advertising, do you think there's going to be this dogfight to be the top Christmas advert, or do you think that Coca-Cola and John Lewis have the market share?
I think they're two separate conversations. John Lewis, Sainsbury's was the one that did it this year, but they're different markets. They're winning the mind share of people, but they're different markets in terms of consumerism. It's just about more and more consumerism, and I think from an advertiser's point of view, it's just great to see people spending money on advertising. But also, in terms of that battle, I think it's just moving away from where we were 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Family television was Top of the Pops, the Morecambe and Wise show, and the adverts in between. Now we compress our time and spend time multitasking. We'll watch our laptops or phones and watch TV. And YouTube, the YouTube generation, which is a shorter time span, not a worse time span, I'm probably in that time span, 10 minutes, I'm enough, is they've become the replacement for those extravaganzas, and that's why that's happened. Where it goes next, I don't know at the moment, but I think I've answered your question. It's kind of a weird one because Black Friday over here meant something else. Black Friday, originally, I'd lived in Wales for quite a long time, and it was the last day of working in a factory or in the mines in Wales. And Black Friday meant that you ran into the pub and you just got absolutely slaughtered. So to get it re-engineered to be Black Friday elsewhere, it was just an appropriation from the American market. It works well as a piece of information that we can all access. If you Google it, you're there, you know what Black Friday is. But there's also Sofa Sunday. And the other one, Digital Monday or something, I can't remember what it's called. Cyber Monday, sorry, thank you. I was fixated on getting Sofa Sunday right. And so they're setting these up because the Black Friday was moving into the sort of supermarket, high street event to try and get people in to do that. And it's all hyped up. That's why it all happened, really. That's why we're talking about it right now. So it was a good use of that. A lot of those American mechanisms are very good in terms of, there's a better understanding of a commercial event in America. We're a bit coy about it over here, and we're slowly appropriating them, like Halloween and things like that, are becoming much more strong. So it's just these landmarks or signposts to get people to spend and make sure that they're aware, and that's all we've done. We just moved it over. So the term existed, but it's been reappropriated. My favourite Sofa Sunday is just the fact that that's when all the internet shopping goes on. It's like, if you did all three, you're spending a lot. How much? £300? £350. There you go. And it's not a holiday, no, but it does come from the same, I think comes from the same sort of position, same starting point. It was about the way the factories closed and things like that. And they had a day off, and but we just appropriated the phrase just to use it in terms of engineering people getting footfall into supermarkets, pretty much. Maybe it'll come, I don't know.